Huge LED globe thing. Back in Vegas where it's 100 degrees, but it's probably in the high 60s here inside the casino. Brand new casino, makes no difference, still freezing, hoodie weather. That's right, brand new casino, Resorts World, opened last night at like 11:30 in the PM. I decided to wait it out less than 24 hours to come over here and check it out. Looks amazing, not gonna lie. There's tons of places in here that I'm already pretty excited to explore. More bars than I can count. There's like 40 different food eateries in this resort. Shops, slot machines, pools, spas, and blackjack tables, better believe it. There's also a poker room. They don't use Bravo here, they use Poker Atlas, one of like maybe 2 or 3 casinos in Las Vegas to use Poker Atlas rather than Bravo. Also because you can put your name on the list, you can check in on the app when you arrive, all that done through the app rather than the very annoying phone calls that, my name's already on the list. I'm not sure what game I'm gonna play because there's a lot of people that also wanna check out this poker room. I was lucky enough to get a tour a week ago of both the poker room and the casino. So this will not be my first time seeing these particular poker tables and chairs with these eyes, but it will be the first hand that I get dealt into at this brand new casino. I'm pretty excited to either play 2-5 no limit, 5-10 no limit, 1-2 PLO, or 5-5-10 PLO. What's it gonna be? Let's find out. You guys will find out shortly, as will I.
We're on 4 different lists, and the first one that we reached the top of is 2-5 no limit hold'em. The max buy-in of $1,200 is kind of an odd number, but it's a new room that wants to try and differentiate from the competition. In our very first hand ever dealt in this room, we find a pocket pair. I make it $20 to go, under the gun plus 2 calls, before it gets around to the small blind who makes it $85. After 4 some odd years of waiting for this casino to open, I think you know how I feel in this spot.
Nah, I'm not folding. I'm not.
I make the call and the other player gets out of the way. We go heads up to a flop that unfortunately isn't a favorable one for these 4s. Facing a 3-figure continuation bet, we're just gonna have to lose our first hand at Resorts World. In this hand, the $10 button straddle is on, and after an early position limp, we look down at a pretty Jack-10 suited. $50 sounds like a good number to try and punish the limper with. The button gets out of the way, and the limper makes the call. Heads up to 6-4-4. Jack high and no showdown on a dry board looks like a good one to me to c-bet, and my opponent check calls. Turn is another 6, so when my opponent checks, I think we check back here with almost our full range. The river brings yet another 6. My opponent checks one more time, and since my jack high has turned into a full house, I autopilot, admittedly, into happily showing it down. Looking back, I think I can go for a bluff here. If my opponent had a hand like pocket 7s, I think he might be inclined to go for some value himself. And since we can have all the best boats and he can't as a limp caller, I think the auto check back is a little on the weak side, but at least we get half. My name gets called for the 5-5-10 PLO game, so we're stepping it up in stakes and in action. I get involved right away with a hand that can probably find the muck, but we're playing short-handed, so
I'm not folding.
3 ways to a flop where we make top 2 pair on a dynamic board. Action checks to me, and I bet $80. We see one call from the player on my right. The turn is an offsuit ace, which doesn't help my hand, but is always best from my range as the pre-flop raiser. My opponent checks, and I bet $220. He's pretty short stacked, and if he makes this call, he's essentially going to be all in, aside from maybe $25. That's how much he leaves behind after making this call, and is almost certainly drawing here. The river is one of the worst cards since it completes several draws, and my opponent tosses his last few chips into the middle. I'd love to fold here, but getting 9 million to 1, we're going to have to give the guy a free buffet and see what we lose to.
Straight check. One more nickel.
Ben, would you like a tip or would you prefer to gamble?
All right, still playing a little short-handed here. The first player to act raises to $35 before we look at a super playable 8764 double suited on the button. This is an awesome hand to put into our 3-bet range, so we take the opportunity and make it 115 to go, which deters almost nobody. There's 2 cold calls and the initial raiser calls as well. How do you guys not love PLO? 4 ways to a flop that connects with us big time. A wrap plus a flush draw. If you're not familiar with PLO, a wrap is a straight draw where 3 or more cards would give us a straight. In this instance, that would be a 6, 7, or 8, and what's even better is that any of those cards would be the nut straight. The flush draw is a little less interesting to us since it's so low, but if someone has a higher flush draw, then at least we're blocking their outs. There's 2 checks, and the player who put in the first pre-flop raise leads out for $450. Folding is out of the question, so we can choose between flatting and getting it in. While our hand looks amazing, it's not the nut draw that we could have here. There's a higher wrap available, and of course a higher flush draw too. Multi-way pots, always complicated, but having the button seems like a good advantage here, so I decide to flat call and see what develops. The other 2 players get out of the way, and we go heads up to a turn. The jack of spades is not a good one. He continues with the aggression and puts us all in. Our straight draws could be worthless now if my opponent had a hand like king, king, queen 10 or king, queen 10, 9, but is it possible that both of our draws are worthless? Chances are my opponent flopped a set or 2 pair and wanted to protect versus 3 players. So if that were the case and our draws are all live, it would be a disaster to fold all that equity away. Then again, versus a straight, we're pretty dusted. So it's a fine line, but I didn't bring my vlogging camera to capture myself folding turns with a wrap and a flush draw.
Okay, let's gamble. Twice? 2 times is good.
Go. Twice?
There's good news and bad news in this hand. Bad news is that we run it twice and see 2 of the biggest bricks possible, a red deuce on both runouts. The silver lining is that my opponent had king jack 8-5 without a club draw, so while he flopped 2 pair, our draws were super live. In fact, we're a slight favorite on the flop and still have 45% equity going into the river. Just need a little help from the run good department here at Resorts World, which apparently was busy serving other customers so far. Sensing my displeasure with their service, the RG department goes out of their way to deal me some aces. There's a raise from early position and a call before we get to put in a 3-bet with 1 suit and an additional pair of deuces. Of course, nobody is going to fold to 3-bets in PLO, so we go multi-way to a beautiful ace-high board. Having those deuces in our hand also makes it less likely that someone has a straight here, so we're happy to start piling the money in. 2 of my opponents oblige for the full amount, and we're going to see a turn and river in a huge pot. Now, normally I'm cool with running it twice in heads-up pots, but in 3-way pots with varying stack sizes, I found that running it once is ideal to help avoid any confusion with chopped pots. So let's go.
You just like buy.
You guys are on the side for the rest. I'm going to run it out.
What is that?
That's the cafe. There's
What is that?
like another hybrid.
You just buy.
Like a very small little.
What do you want to buy? Who's gonna buy shit?
A full house right away on the turn seals the deal and eliminates any potential for any draws to crack these pocket aces. Ship this one on over to the good guys. And again, guys, how do you not love PLO?
Let's see what you have here. With the blocker.
It appeals to a lot of people.
With the blocker. 3.
Wrapping up the session, first ever session at brand spanking new Resorts World here in Las Vegas, Nevada. First impressions of the RW, mostly positive, particularly the poker room. I haven't explored any of the fine establishments that they have here on offer. A ton of stuff to explore in there as far as like bars and restaurants go. But as far as the poker room goes, mostly positive. Of course, there's going to be some hiccups. This is basically day number 1. Last night barely even counts, so just impossible for it to not have any hiccups in a brand new spot. Got into all of the poker games for a total of $2,200 and cashed out of the poker games for a disputable amount. was either 3,123 or 3,223. I think I'm not built for these like super late night sessions anymore or something. Too tired to keep track of numbers. Either way, we finish in the black to the tune of somewhere around $1,000, which is good because it was looking a little bit dire there. I was stuck like 1,500 bucks or something. So the swings of PLO once again, but it swings in our way this time. Look at that building. Pretty building back there.